In this lecture segment, last semester students would like to share some of their lessons learned with you, and I'd like to offer some of my own suggestions as well. Okay, let's get started. For all the semesters I've been teaching this course, the last question on my final exam has always been the same. Please write some short lessons learned to next semester's CS12 students regarding how to succeed in this course, things you think they'd need to know, or anything else about the course that comes to mind. What do you wish you'd known much sooner? Unless you indicate otherwise, I'd like to share your anonymous comments with them at the beginning of next semester, just as I did with you at the beginning of this semester. So what I did was transcribe their responses from off the final exams, sort them into broad general topics, and group similar responses together. The comments appearing on the following slides are their verbatim comments to you from last semester. They have much more to say than we can possibly cover here, but let's take a look at some representative comments. For starters, here are some general suggestions for course success from last semester's students. These things will be mentioned in more detail elsewhere, but these are the basic principles for success that seem to come up over and over again in their comments. Here are some of their representative comments. To succeed in this course, it is important to have a strategy to have designated time for lectures material, attending or watching office hours, and working on assignments. Stay organized with your time. The best way to succeed in this course is by watching the demo videos and reading through the weekly code. I recommend getting into the habit of going to the office hours, reading the sample code, and reading the lecture notes. These are essential to not leaving you confused and lost on assignments. And no matter how smart you think you are, if you are new to coding, you will need to put in the time. If you do not put in any effort, it is also going to be difficult. But for those who want to learn the material, this professor will give you all the tools you need. As stated elsewhere, all course materials needed will be available to you on Canvas, so make full use of them. Regarding the Canvas materials, the general sentiment was to make full use of them and read them all every week before starting on the assignments, and to not skip over the code walkthroughs. Here's what last semester's students had to say. Download all the lecture materials and source code at the beginning of each week. The source code contains useful examples for the labs you'll write. It is very important to download all of the lectures and code examples that he puts up on Canvas. They will help you through several assignments. Watch the lecture videos and especially the demo videos. The demos help out a lot when making your program. Make sure to keep up with the lectures, since missing even a small concept can lose you points for the rest of the semester. Everything you need to know for an assignment is in the lecture notes and videos. Must read and/or watch these given materials. Over the semesters, students have consistently offered similar advice regarding the assignments. Namely, start on them as soon as possible and give yourself time to deal with problems. And keep up on them because they do build on each other. I'll probably harp on these things often, but these are past students talking, not me. In their words, don't procrastinate and watch all the lecture videos before starting a new program. Do not start the programs later. Start as early as possible and work bit by bit. If you get stuck, you won't have to worry about the assignment being turned in late. The assignments are not a one-night assignment. Yes, you may be able to complete the assignment in one night, but there will be small mistakes that will affect the integrity of the code. It doesn't require that you log more hours. All it takes is the organization to get started in advance. It really doesn't go any faster when you do it all at once. Trust me. Do all the labs and submit them on time. Getting behind on the labs will really eat at your grade, so it's important to stay on top of your work. No extra credit in this course. That means that every assignment and grade matter and cannot be made up with a different assignment. So do your best in every assignment. For every single assignment given, a grading rubric will be provided, and this will be the vehicle for providing you with detailed feedback specific to your efforts. The expectation is that you will use this as a pre-submittal checklist and will then review and incorporate any feedback provided into your subsequent programs to improve them. As your fellow students put it, for those trying to squeeze every point out of this class, review the rubric before you submit your assignments. It very clearly lays out how your work will be graded. I always ended up missing something minor and saving myself a couple points for each assignment by checking that rubric. These are basically cheat sheets that give you the answers, and they have saved me many points throughout the semester, even when I thought my program was flawless. Coding style and conventions are the little details, the good rules rules of the road in programming, which help make your code read and look better, both to you and to anyone else reading it, such as an instructor trying to grade it. We will be emphasizing lots of these little things in the first half assignments to help make them regular habits. Here's what your peers had to say.
Coding standard matters a lot. Be sure to comment a lot and label everything. Get used to the coding standards earlier rather than later. Trying to adapt later on will cost you a lot of effort and/or points. Make it a priority right from the start.
By contrast, good programming practices are larger, more general habits and best practices that help you write your code with more efficiency, less stress and frustration, and better end results. These are the good habits will help you develop over the course of the semester. As your predecessors learned through hard experience,
take the time to get organized every week. If there's one thing I would have changed about my approach, it would have been to start earlier and work in smaller increments. The biggest takeaway from this class is that even the largest and complex programs can become extremely manageable when you break everything down into smaller problems. Embracing that early on will make the process of writing code much more enjoyable. Organize all your programs and files. There are a ton of moving parts to some assignments, and having an organized workspace can help prevent headaches. You should also remember to comment and nest your code properly, because it helps organize the program, making it easier to solve the problems you may encounter. It's important to know that you definitely will get stuck on an assignment, and when you do, you need to take a break. I often think of solutions when I step outside and clear my head.
Here's a biggie which students always seem to struggle with: asking questions. I realize it's often very hard for younger students to do, but it's vital in an online setting like ours. And the ones who were brave enough to take that leap usually found themselves amply rewarded. Here's what they had to say.
Ask questions. Rob will enthusiastically help you if you just reach out. One thing I also wish I knew was that any question is a good question, and to ask them all the time. Professor Lapkus is there for you. If you feel you need help, reach out to him, have your code checked, attend the discussions. Don't stall out because you can't understand something. The professor does a great job of being available and is willing to help students in any way that he reasonably can. Professor Lapkus always provided insightful feedback no matter how many questions you had. He was quick to reply every single time.
As noted in the syllabus, I will gladly do one-time code reviews of your assignments before you turn them in. This helps you wring out the simple errors in your programs, helps me to expedite the grading, and generally results in better scores for you. As past students noted,
my big recommendation is to take advantage of the code reviews from start to finish. Take advantage of the professor's code review. No joke, this was incredibly helpful, not only in the way I wrote code, but for my grade as well. Use code reviews. Easy way to get full points on a program, especially one you're struggling with, and even encourages you to finish the program before the due date. The code reviews are vital, gives you an extra set of eyes to see what could be improved or needs to be changed before you submit for formal grading. I wish I took advantage of the code reviews sooner than I did. They ended up being extremely helpful.
Office hours will be held online weekly, as noted in the syllabus. In these sessions, we can get questions answered in real time, do some demos of the upcoming assignments, and have some time to demonstrate things like debugging programs. Students who attended regularly found these sessions very helpful, or as they put it,
attend the office hours. Office hours are a great way to become familiar with what the assignment is going to be, even if you have not started yet, and answer any questions about the specifics of it. Attending the office hours will help you get help with any problems you may be stuck on, or further explain a concept that you may be struggling with. I know I never attended any of the Zoom meetings when they were live, but the recordings you saved did help me out a few times over the course when I got stuck.
As noted early in the syllabus, the course pacing will start out leisurely, but will pick up steam quickly as the semester advances, particularly in the second half after the midterm. So be forewarned, or as prior students point out,
I wish I would have known the extent of how quickly the course speeds up after the midterm. Things ramp up a lot in the second half of the course. The last few assignments took me at least 3 to 4 times as long as the earlier ones. All I can say is don't fall into the deception at the beginning of the semester, because after the midterm the pace will speed up. and it's now more important than ever to ask for help and start on the assignments as early as you can. Do not disregard any of the messages above. The semester will pick up after the midterm heavily, so be prepared and don't say I didn't warn you.
Over all the semesters I've been teaching this course, effective time management has consistently been the biggest and most painful lesson learned, and the one which elicits the most responses. The same general themes keep coming up every semester. I can point these things out until I'm blue in the face, but please heed past students' advice such as this.
The one thing that comes to mind in order to succeed in this course is time management. In a lot of intro courses, you could get away with procrastinating or engage minimally, but not in this course. Do not procrastinate, especially the last couple of programs in the class. The number one thing that I learned about this course is that you must start your work ahead of time and can't procrastinate. I fell behind and my grades suffered because of it. Just do yourself the favor of starting in advance. I'm really not trying to overdo myself here, but it's just really the key to success in this course in all its forms. I promise you'll literally save time, not spend more of it. This course is not impossible. Completing assignments on time can become impossible if you do not give yourself time.
Finally, some general encouragement from last semester's students to you, which I think nicely sums things up.
There is a lot of talk that this class is challenging or hard, although realistically it just requires you to invest your time and turn your brain on for the assignments. It's okay if you have limited to no programming experience. How the course is designed will have you start with the basic fundamentals of programming and beginning to build upon that. Having little to no knowledge of text-based programming will be all right. If you read the materials and work diligently, there will be little to no difficulties with the course. This course is not determined by how smart you are, it's by how hard you are willing to work. This course is challenging because it requires time, patience, and persistence. However, this course is one of the most rewarding courses. Making the programs can be kind of fun. Don't get me wrong, it's still homework, but it can be enjoyable to see a finished program and that all your work paid off. Anyway, I think that's enough. Enjoy the class.
Well, there you have it. Last semester's students' advice to you. There's lots of useful, hard-won advice here. I'll surely be harping on many of these things during the semester, but please take heed of this advice from your peers. And hopefully you too will be able to pay it forward to next semester's students at the end of this semester. Finally, here's some advice that I'd like to leave you with based on my experience in teaching this course. Divide and conquer. Tackle any big programming assignment by breaking it down into smaller pieces and solving those pieces one at a time. Begin any program you'll write with pseudocode. Start all your new programs with the program template we'll be creating soon. Then begin by creating a commented outline of what you want your code to do without having to worry about all the details yet. Get in the habit early on of using a quick, tight programming cycle. Make some code changes, save your changes, compile your code, test it, and then repeat. Over and over again, I see students try to write their programs in one pass. Then when that code blows up with compile errors, they have no idea as to where to start to fix their problems. You'll get a taste of the preferred incremental approach when you create your first Hello World program this week. Along those lines, simplicity. Get something simple working first. Then gradually build it up and keep adding on to it. Do not try to write an entire program in one shot. Rather, start small and keep adding on to it. Again, you'll get practice with this approach when you write this week's Hello World program. Finally, do your very best to keep up with the class. Don't let yourself get behind in the material or on the assignments, because everything builds upon earlier concepts. In particular, programs later in the semester will directly extend and build upon earlier ones. This will be very important to keep in mind after the midterm. And finally, please remember, I am always here to help you with that in any way I can. I'll leave you with this one final thought. There is no shame in not knowing. The shame lies in not finding out. If in doubt, if unsure, if confused, make sure to do something to figure it out. It's okay to get stuck. Don't let yourself stay stuck. Okay, that's the end of this lecture segment. We'll pick back up by starting to get into Java itself.